Hi, my name is Kirk Hamilton, your host of the Staying Healthy Today show. This is a show where we bring you key experts in the fields of nutrition, prevention, integrative and lifestyle medicine, or sometimes I talk on an individual topic, and it's for the individual, society, and the world. And today, I got, when I saw the title of this article, the title was "Longer Wavelengths in Sunlight Pass Through the Human Body and Have a Systemic Impact," which improves vision. Well, I'm kind of a sun person, and so I like walking in the sun, and I always believe it's more than just vitamin D that something that's happening. So anyway, I don't know if this is going to make sense, but I looked in the article, and there was some information about vision, mitochondrial function being improved, and red light wavelengths, which you hear a lot about in the integrated medicine world for healing. So, therefore, I want to introduce Dr. Glen Jeffery. He's a PhD, got a Bachelor of Sciences. He's a professor of neuroscience at the Institute of Ophthalmology and the University College London in London, England. So, thank you very much for coming on the show today and honoring me with asking you a few questions. Are you
Thank
there?
you. It's a pleasure.
All right. So, tell me first I saw this as just a kind of a simple wellness thing, walking in the sun or something like that. Then I saw that the study, and I went through the study, and you're putting light through uh, the the torso of individuals, and so I thought maybe it wasn't going to be practical. It was going to be more of just a laboratory event to create a physiologic study of something. So, what got you interested in studying sunlight in the first place on human health? Or why did you do the study, I guess?
Okay, very good. Yeah. Um, so I was picking up on a lot of the red light research maybe 15 years ago, and I started noticing that some of it was coming from what I thought were very, very good labs. So a reason to take the issue seriously. But I've also had another push in that I'd like to translate some of the work that goes on in the laboratory into the real world environment. And I work with a few people that are physicists, and they were saying to me, well, this long wavelength light that has beneficial effects on metabolism, it's in sunlight and it goes very, very deep. So it was very, very difficult to find out exactly how deep it went. So it was a very simple and cheap experiment. I wheeled a few people out of the lab into the backyard of the institute, and I got them to stand in sunlight, and I put some recording equipment on their backs. And we recorded, we measured sunlight coming through the body. I think for a lot of people that was a bit of a surprise. Actually, it was a bit of a surprise for me. But also, for the physicists predicted it, and I went with that, and we got a very, very clear result with everybody. We couldn't get much light out of the back because most of it was being absorbed deep inside the human body, but we were getting some out of the back. Now, that light really has a very strong effect on metabolism. So as we give the light, the light influences mitochondria, which are the powerhouse of the cell, and they need something else as well. They need carbohydrate. So what they do is they take carbohydrate out of your blood, so your blood sugars tend to be regulated a bit better. But the one place in the body where you have more mitochondria than anywhere else is your retina. So if you improve mitochondrial function, then a good place to look for it is asking people how good their vision is. That's all we did. We just said to them, how good is your ability to detect colored letters on a noisy colored background? And it's a metric that we can do rather well. We've got the equipment for it, and we got a pretty good result. So there was the kind of rationale in the background, and that's the sort of the reason why we've got systemic effects. We've got effects right across the body because every cell has got mitochondria in it. Every cell needs energy, and I keep referring to the mitochondria as batteries. We're just improving your batteries. We're not doing anything. We're not doing anything, you know, super high tech, because you can do it in sunlight anyway.
So trying to bring this back to the practical realm because it seems so practical. Now, did you come up with the source of the red light therapy, or were they just in the sunlight, natural sunlight?
So natural sunlight has got vast amounts of infrared in it, absolutely vast amounts, very evenly distributed. We can't see it, so we tend not to pay attention to it, but it's there. And as long as you're out in sunlight, you are getting vast amounts of it. Now, I can mirror elements of that in the lab. I can take very specific LEDs that give off infrared light, but they don't give off infrared light anywhere near as much as sunlight does. Sunlight is very, 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 very powerful in that respect.
So in your study, I've read it, but I get a little confused. Were these people just outside, or were you giving them red light therapy?
Right. So the first thing we did was we took people outside and we measured the light coming through their body. Then we measured the wavelength of that light. What's the wavelength of that light coming through? So then we built a device, which basically was a ceiling tile, on which we put LEDs that were all of that super long wavelength red light. And we replicated the sunlight experiment in the lab. We put them in front of a whole load of 850 nanometer LEDs. We got the same effect. So we've done a real world experiment, and we've translated some of that to something in the lab.
So on the one you did outside, did the people have their shirts on or shirts on? In other words, did they have their clothes on? I got confused because I heard about the gentleman in the lab that I think didn't have their shirts on. Is that
Right.
correct?
So you're doing an experiment. You want to maximize the chance that you're going to get a result, particularly when you're asking people favors. You know, come on, I need you as a subject. So obviously these people were people I knew very well. So the first run on this, we got people to take their shirts off. But then subsequently, at the end of that paper, we asked the question, how much of this long wavelength light goes through clothing? And the result that we found is that 850 goes through most clothes. It's attenuated a bit, but not much. So we took separate layers of clothing, we put them on hangers, and we shone 850 light through them, and then imaged that with a sensitive infrared camera. So, okay, maybe I pushed my luck with getting people to take their tops off. However, in the real world, when you go out for a walk out on the street and you're wearing, say what I am, which is a t-shirt and a shirt, the infrared light's going straight through it, you know, straight through it. So I didn't really need to get them to take half their clothes off, but every experiment's got to have some fun in it.
Yeah. So that brings us. So that brings up more than one benefit of sunlight. So, everybody says go out, doctors will say, I'm in the field where we like higher levels of vitamin D as an immune augmenting substance. And so people say get out for 15 minutes or so, but it doesn't raise your vitamin D level up that much because I test it all the time. But I live in sunny California. I had colon cancer. I go for a walk to enhance my immune system, and I take my shirt off when I walk in the sun for half hour every day right now. And I feel wonderful doing it. And so aside from the argument with the dermatologist or whatever about the skin and such, but could it be that I'm obviously activating my mitochondria and more ATP just by walking in the sun, whether or not I had my shirt on or off? I mean, if I had a shirt on, because I see people walking with their shirts on and stuff like that on it's kind of like on a levee on a river. They're getting benefit too, right? I mean, we're both getting benefit. Plenty. It sounds like.
Definitely, you're getting, with all this red light therapy and all the kind of discussions about it, I say time after time, keep your credit card in your pocket, go for a walk.
So I was trying to get at. I was like, because I see red light therapy in the field I'm in, talked about all the time as a special therapy, and I'm thinking, wow, what you just said is like, just get out there, and whether you have your shirt on or not, you're going to get benefit if you walk. How about on a not so sunny day?
Well, there's less infrared. And if you've got clouds, infrared light is scattered by water. So water in clouds will scatter infrared light, but there's still loads of it out there. Absolutely. Don't kid yourself and think, well, I'm not going for a walk, it's a cloudy day. There's loads of it out there. It's far less focused. It's not coming directly from the sun because it's coming through the clouds and it's scattering. It really makes very little difference. Very little difference indeed.
So what, I guess, what practical application would you like to see come of your research? You're a scientist, you like to figure out things and see results, but you have that other side, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So what?
So mitochondria regulate your life. Mitochondria tell you when to die. You know, they're incredibly important. So where's the thrust in this? Well, the first thrust in this that we are getting a lot of traction with is critical care units. So in a critical care unit in a modern hospital, you'll find that you've got LED lighting, which has got zero long wavelength in it. It's got nothing. So your mitochondria are sitting there feeling pretty hungry and starving. So we've got two major London hospitals, which we're talking to, one of which we've delivered the first set of lights to, just to enrich that environment with infrared light. The idea is, you know, if you're sick, you can be sick for lots of reasons. But a primary or secondary effect in that illness will be mitochondria. Mitochondria will suffer. If mitochondria suffer, your whole body will suffer. So there's one big effect. We have a government agency in the UK called NICE, and NICE are responsible for saying whether drugs can be prescribed or not prescribed, general issues of healthcare. And NICE have come to us, and NICE have said to us, can we have a discussion about infrared light? And that's great, because that means, it certainly means that, that it's no longer regarded purely as magic crystals. You know, there's this thing, oh, you know, magic crystals, you know, smoke and mirrors. It's not that. I mean, there's a lot of companies producing red light devices that I would put into that category, but the science is there behind that. So we also want to dent on nursing homes for older people, and we're getting some traction there. We're moving across the board here, and the reason why I think we've suddenly have traction is that the absence of infrared light in the built environment. The built environment has got no infrared light in it.
Let me, I'm sorry to interrupt, but let me ask you, so there's a term, full spectrum lighting versus far infrared. Is full spectrum, does that include the far infrared or not enough, or does that just focus, so to speak?
Full spectrum, when it's used properly, and the term is not used properly most of the time, means the full spectrum of sunlight. So that goes from sort of the violets you probably can't see very well to the infrareds that you can't see very well. Companies manufacture things and they say it's full spectrum. Basically, that tends to be untrue. Full spectrum is sunlight, and we can get a little way around this by using old incandescent light bulbs. Old incandescent light bulbs are full spectrum. They're a heat source, and they give off pretty much the same spectrum as sunlight. So we have got some great results that are coming out very shortly, where we go into an environment without windows, an academic environment, and harsh LED lighting. And all we do is we put 60-watt incandescent light bulbs around the workspace. Get a great result. Absolutely great result. Better than we ever get with LEDs of a specific wavelength. So, you know, it's a good alternative from sunlight. And, you know, you and I, we grew up in a world as kids where you put your hand on a light bulb and it was hot. It was hot because it was incandescent, and incandescent produces a beautiful, smooth, long spectrum of infrared light, like sunlight. Now, sadly, in the US, you are just about to ban those completely. In the UK, we can't put them in new buildings, but even you can probably still get them on Amazon somewhere. So one of our aims in life is just going around changing people's light bulbs. Really simple. And then people say, oh, they blow after a while and got to be replaced. Well, actually, if you just run them at a low voltage, they'll last years. So just put a dimmer switch on them.
So the incandescent is kind of full spectrum, and it does include some far infrared.
Loads, almost as much as sunlight. It is full proper spectrum.
So why wouldn't you go to the hospital and just, instead of coming up with a far infrared light machine, or to give more of that, just plug in regular incandescent light bulbs?
Well, science moves sometimes not in the way that you want it to move. So our first thing was, actually, critical care doctors came to us and said, should we be putting infrared light in the environment? And we went, yeah. And then our science moved on, and we found that the incandescent light bulb was even better. So you're right. That is going to be the progression. The progression is going to be the incandescent light bulb. Now, they've been very decent. They've walked through the door. They've asked our advice, and we've given it. I don't want to ruffle too many feathers too early and say, hey, change all that. The infrared light source, LED light source, is still doing a hell of a lot for the patient. It's just still doing a lot, particularly in critical care where things are on the balance. Things are on the balance. Some of the critical care doctors were quite smart. They came to me and said, we know that we get people out of critical care faster if the patient is sitting by a window. Now, so there was a little bit of knowledge there. There was a little bit of background that they could pick up on. But we will probably be telling them, yeah, incandescent light bulbs is where it's probably going to be in the future.
I mean, so that just I think about the old clinics where they used to put people out with some kind of infirmary, and they would put them out in the sunlight, way back before I was even born. And so you would say, well, they're getting vitamin D. Well, they're not getting vitamin D. Not just vitamin D. They're getting their mitochondria supercharged.
Yeah, that's true. Now, you have locally in Southern California a critical care doctor, Roger Schwelt. And actually, he has been doing exactly that, right? He's at Loma Linda, and he has got some rather dramatic results with people who were in very poor condition. He's critical care, but he's respiratory, and so he's had people with respiratory conditions that have, the danger is it's a little bit too inductive in its reasoning. I've got one here, it's worked, therefore it should work generally. But when you put Roger's case studies together with all of the literature out there, look, there's something happening out here and we should pay attention. And what does it cost in Southern California to move someone out?
And that's what I'm saying. So he just moved him out in sunlight or near a window.
Yeah. He just moved him into sunlight.
I don't know how you charge for that. I don't know how you charge for moving somebody close to the window.
Well,
I mean, you could. I guess you could have a window room. I guess you could.
I think that stuff about moving people outside, particularly for many of the cases of tuberculosis, didn't get very bad. It didn't get good press because in the long run, a lot of those patients were in a very, very poor condition. We didn't know how to analyze data properly in those times. But I suspect it was a relatively smart move.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like. How about you focused on vision, the retina being the highest source of energy and mitochondrial need. So how did you test for that, or how did you observe they have improved vision? And obviously they didn't have to stare into sunlight. They just had the wavelengths move through them.
Yeah. So I'm lucky. I'm in Institute of Ophthalmology. So I've got lots of upmarket toys to allow me to test vision. So we tested their color vision because that's a very, very easy metric to do. And we can do that very rapidly. So, but as I'm observing my community around me, people are doing other things. So someone else in London, really great lab, they're showing improvements in grip strength. Now, that's really important in aging people. You know, your ability to grab hold of something, your ability, your motor skills. When you lose your motor skills, you fall over, you break your hip. If you're in your mid-80s, early 90s, that could be a pathway to death. So we're improving motor skills. We're
Just
also
with the infrared light, you mean?
Yeah.
Right.
And we did that by changing light bulbs. Right? That was done by changing light bulbs.
That's not. I can see the supplement companies now, along with their supplement, they're going to sell incandescent light bulbs.
Yeah, of course they will. But that was an important study. It wasn't done by me. It was done by somebody else. So it was independent. And they also profiled the blood, the serum of these people under different light bulbs. And the markers in the serum changed very significantly. And all the shifts in the serum were shifts that we would grossly categorize as being a move in the right direction for an older person. So, and that, again, I didn't do that. Someone else did that, completely independent lab. So we are getting general effects.
I plead ignorance. Why did we ever switch from incandescent light bulbs to LEDs?
We did it because as you grab your incandescent light bulb, it's hot. That means it's wasting energy. So when a couple of guys won the Nobel Prize for the development of the LED, because the LED only produces light that you can see, right? So we saved energy, saved a lot of energy. And that's the thing that the American government is going on about. We should only have LEDs because LEDs save energy, and we should all be saving energy. We didn't know what the consequences were of removing the infrared light. And my colleague, Bob Fosbury's got a great phrase. He says this is modern day scurvy because it's an example of a disease that occurs because you take something away. So in the 18th, 19th century, early 19th century, sailors at sea used to get this terrible disease, scurvy. And they used to die of it. Their teeth used to drop out. And it was because they didn't have vitamin C. And it was only when they started putting limes on board ships and sailors started actually squeezing limes and drinking small amounts of it that their health suddenly improved. So we're not used to confronting diseases that occur because we take something away. But it is modern day scurvy, definitely.
Yeah. So the average person, you would encourage, I mean, well, I don't know how you measure it, just you feel better. You know, if your mitochondria improves, you feel better. There's all kinds of nutrients that they say take this or that. And I've done to, you know, improve mitochondrial function. So let's say you go out for a half-hour walk and you've got your shirt on and I don't know, it's a foggy day in London.
You all think that.
Are you getting any benefit from it?
Yes. So
okay.
Here is another add-on to that. If you grab hold of a leaf in hot sunlight, the leaf never gets warm. The leaf is always cool. That's because leaves do not absorb infrared, they reflect it. They bounce it away. So if you can go for a walk, even when it's a bit shady, all the foliage around you is reflecting infrared light. So an infrared photograph of a tree looks like a tree covered in snow. So, and the amount of infrared that they are reflecting is just on the minimum level that you would have for a therapeutic effect.
So it doesn't, I mean, I imagine it, so it's reflecting in all directions. So you're getting kind of a shower of infrared light because it's not just reflecting up like, you know, it's bouncing off and the leaf. And
yeah. So there is, and I don't, off the top of my head, I can't remember which city it is. There's a city in the Midwest of America where they've just, and it wasn't a city, I mean, it's not like, say, California, where you think maybe you've got a few more progressive ideas. In this city, they just planted thousands of trees. And then they looked at people's health. And they looked at a very specific marker of health, which is called CRP in your blood, complement-related protein. And when it goes up, it's telling you you've got inflammation, you've got a problem. They looked at the CRP in all these people, and it went down, right? So we increased the amount of reflected infrared in an urban environment, and it had an impact on public health. I think that's a great study. I think it's a nice study. It was really well designed. It was really well executed, and it was incredibly insightful. Very insightful.
Yeah, I would have never. Well, I was ignorant that the infrared light would reflect off trees or the leaves, and you could get a benefit. You could get a benefit. So you walk down the middle of a street that's got trees on both sides and sun coming down, and you're getting a shower, so to speak.
Yeah. So I now spend quite a lot of my time working with architects, and we're talking about the fact that modern buildings block infrared light in their glass so you can control the temperature. We're trying to find a way of dealing with that. But then we're also saying, what is the importance of greenery around a building for public health, those people in the building with horrible LEDs with no infrared light? And there's a growing awareness there. There really is a growing awareness. I think the architects have got this notion of well-being, which I don't know what well-being is, but it's a positive thing. And they're using greenery as a way of increasing well-being. Now, you've got a new Mayo Clinic, I think in upstate New York, going up, and it's going to be unbelievably expensive. It's all going to be made in glass. And the Mayo Clinic went to the architects that got the contract, and they said to them, we want two things. We want healthy air and we want healthy light. Now, the architecture firm didn't know what was meant by healthy light, and they walked through. I'm quite chuffed. They walked through our door and they said, what should we be doing about this? So they're a very big architect firm. So it is cascading down to the people that can make a difference, the people that can influence public health. It's not about, well, it is about patients in hospitals. That's important. But the thing that's really important is the person walking down the road. Millions of people walking down the road. People in the street. How do we improve their public health? That's a key thing. And the architects can deliver on that.
This is what I was hoping. I wasn't sure after I started to read the article, I thought I got over my head and I go, I wonder how practical this is going to be. And as I talk to you, it's like, no, it's like, it's too practical. It's like, okay, get out and walk, build buildings that might have more windows and have trees around. It's like, and you could, so and if you want to put an incandescent light bulb in, do it.
Yeah. So there's a lot of resistance to this, but the resistance is breaking down. 5 years ago, I was treated in a relatively dismissive manner. We made sure that everything we published was hard. It was hard science in journals that people could get access to free of charge. And I mean, I don't know how many breaths I've got left, but I think we got traction before they put me in the coffin. And that was, that for me was my target. Get traction, get people to carry on with this. We got there.
Yeah, well, I think, we'll just get you outside and walking, and your mitochondria are going to live forever.
Like, they will live forever. Here's a story. So science is very expensive, and you can't do experiments on thousands of humans. Breaks the bank. But one of the things we do is we do experiments on short-lived animals like fruit flies. Fruit flies live significantly longer if they have an incandescent light rather than an LED light. So I mean, those are the big ones, aren't they? Lifespan, health span, they're the big ones. Can't do
Well,
it anymore.
healthy lifespan, you know.
Healthy lifespan. Yeah, that's where we want to be. And everything you find in terms of mitochondria in a fly, you find in a mouse and you find in a human. Right? It's highly, highly, highly conserved. So if we get something done in a fly in the lab, I'm very comfortable then about trying to translate that to the human. Yeah.
Great interview. You shared a lot of pearls. Is there anything else you want to close with? You know, thoughts of wisdom from across the pond.
Well, I suppose I'd like to say to people, don't spend your money, go for a walk. Go for a walk, get sunlight. The walk in itself will help your cardiovascular system. Your mitochondria will improve. And do you know, I got half a dozen massive devices in my outer office been sent to me. I don't know why people send them to me. They want me to tell them that, you know, this device is fantastic. I open it up, I look in it, you know, maybe there's $15 worth of equipment in that, and it's being sold for $5,000. It's cheaper to go for a walk. I'd like that to be my take-home message.
You know, I want to, that's perfect, you know, go for a walk and save your money. But the one thing as we age, you know, when you said vision, all right, we got macular degeneration, we've got, you know, cataracts, but macular degeneration in particular, if somehow walking outside, which sounds counterintuitive to sometimes recommendations of sunlight, could help vision, because vision is, you know, you can't function without vision. That would be a great study to see if walkers outside had better visual acuity,
right?
Or better
So
retinas.
we did, yeah. So we improved older vision with red light. That's done. That's published. I did a clinical trial for macular degeneration, and it failed. And now, in retrospect, I look back at it, and we selected the wrong people. However, there's another clinical trial which is just coming to an end in the UK for people with early stage macular degeneration, and it has a significant positive outcome.
Is that with red light therapy?
Is that what therapy? So okay, we're helping aging, we're helping diseases of aging, and so much of that is regulated by our mitochondria. If we just improve the quality of our mitochondria, they'll let us live a healthier life.
Right. Thank you so much for taking the time, and thanks for adjusting help me with the time. I was off an hour. Yeah.
It's a common problem.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay.
That's great.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Jeffrey. And I want to thank you, the audience, for listening to this edition of the Staying Healthy Today show. And until next time, stay and be well.